Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the GMI Rocket Show, episode 26 today. I'm your host, Roman Zelichenko. I am an immigration lawyer, the founder of an immigration tech startup called Laborless, and the founder of GMI Rocket, which of course brings you this show. I'm super excited for today's episode, number 26. It's always crazy to me to think about how many episodes there have been so far and all the amazing guests I've talked to. Today on the show, we have Jacob Sapochnik, who is a fellow immigration lawyer. He's based in San Diego, but he's also just one of the most interesting and multifaceted immigration lawyers out there. He is a literal, actual influencer on TikTok and Instagram, has a huge following on YouTube, is super tech savvy, has invested in immigration tech and other technology companies, and it's just always kind of looking at and doing the next biggest and best thing in immigration. So I'm really excited for this conversation. We're going to talk about kind of practical things around social media, TikTok and Instagram and things like that. And then just kind of general, kind of what's coming up next. Where should immigration lawyers be looking at in terms of marketing and also technology going forward? So Jacob, thank you so much for joining and for being here and sharing your time.
Thanks, Roman. A pleasure. You're definitely one of the most passionate professionals about immigration that I know. So always a pleasure.
Yeah, likewise. Well, hopefully, we have an hour here, but who knows? There's probably going to be so many things to talk about. We'll do a part 2, part 3. So I guess before we went live, we were chatting a little bit. You're in San Diego. I'm in New York City. Very different climates. How's it going there right now? And with sort of.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely warmer. It's getting up there, 70s, and we have a warm weekend. But I mean, we're still kind of locked down.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? But yeah, overall, I think it's good. I mean, I'm optimistic for the year, and I think we're gonna have some good things happening.
Yeah, same. I remember, it's crazy to think last year, obviously, when the pandemic kind of started in March and April in the US, I remember talking to especially immigration lawyers, and they were like, this is it. My practice is going to close, travel is going to shut down. And of course, there were a lot of challenges this year, specifically around immigration. Of course, not everything else that happened. But I've also spoken to a lot of immigration lawyers that have taken this time to take interesting and new steps. Some have done really well, actually. They've offered new services, et cetera. So, and of course, the big thing that came out of this is work from home culture, changing the way we not just do our own work, but the way we talk to clients and the way we market, right? You can't go to an AILA conference anymore in person or something like that. Yeah. And even though there are digital opportunities, everyone's now thinking like, well, hold on a second. Where are my touch points with my clients? I better really get online more, maybe write more blogs or be more active on social media. So I feel like these conversations, today I'm so excited to hear from you because you've been doing this like since way before it was cool, right? And you're really leading the way for lawyers probably in general, but certainly for immigration lawyers. Before we get started and chatting, to hear about your background, your life, and sort of everything you've done, just a quick shout out to everybody out there. Leave a link in the comments, shout yourself out, tell us where you're calling in from. This is a bi-coastal conversation, but wherever you're calling in from, leave a comment. And then of course, as we go along, leave some questions. We're going to get to them, as Jacob and I chat, we'll definitely take some breaks and answer some of your questions. Just a quick shout out here. We have Oksana saying, hey there, Oksana. Aditi from Canada saying, thank you for hosting this. Of course, it's my pleasure. And hi to Vishal as well. So Jacob, I love kind of, for me, even when I know somebody, and you and I have spoken several times on a number of occasions, there's still so much we don't know about one another. When you meet with somebody, especially in this context, you're not just like, hey, Jacob, how are you? Tell me everything about your life. But now I want to know everything about your life. So I know you went to law school in the UK, but you're originally from Israel. And you moved to, can you talk a little bit about that? I grew up going to Israel. I have family there. What was kind of life like there for you?
So as I mentioned, I'm an Israeli citizen to this day. While I'm an American citizen as well, but I'm an Israeli citizen as well. I hold two passports. So yeah, I mean, grew up in Israel, just regular childhood. I did serve in the Israeli Air Force, which has definitely been an interesting moment because it's kind of like a period of time where you feel like you're frozen in a way, where you have to follow the orders and you kind of have to see how the machine works. And I think that for me, it was more about learning how to deal with people. That was my biggest. I didn't like it when I was there, but looking back, I think my biggest gift from being in the service is really dealing with people, working under pressure, communicating, being very patient and understanding. You have to learn how to deal with this kind of situations when you're in a unit with other people like you, or you're trying to essentially do some things that are quite interesting and important. And when I finished the military service, I decided that I want to move to Europe to go to law school in England. And the reason why I decided to do that is just kind of wanted to, it's a kind of a stressful period being in the service, and I wanted to maybe live somewhere else, but at the same time, be productive. So, my first immigration dilemma was to get a student visa in the UK, right?
Mhm.
So I had to, do that, and that was a good way to be able to stay and live there for. I was there almost 3.5 years, and so. I got my LLB,
Yeah.
the law degree from there. And while I was in law school, one of my roommates, her dad had a startup in Palo Alto, and she said, "Well, we are going to move to Palo Alto, and I'm going to do my LLM in international law and telecommunications. So why don't you come with us? It'll be a cool opportunity to apply." And for me, I was going to go and do something totally different. I was going to go back to Israel and become an attorney there. And I decided to go visit California. I went for, give it a tour. And I applied for a few law schools over there. And I was accepted in a few. And I decided to choose San Diego just because I really liked that law school and the program. I connected with the director. Her name was Jackie Slotkin. And she said, "Listen, come to San Diego. I'll be your American Jewish mom. Come over here." And so that's what happened. They went to Palo Alto. I went to San Diego and got my LLM. And I decided that I wanted to try and stay here. I had an OPT. I had an F1 visa. Then I had my OPT, and then I was doing different internships, but I couldn't really find anybody to help me to stay here, like get a work visa, right? And I remember, how things in life happen for a reason, right? So literally, and back then there was no cap on the H-1B. This is 2000. There was no cap, and so I'm like literally making a decision in my head. I'm going back to Israel. It's over. And I'm walking in this law school, and there's, you have the wanted signs, jobs and internships. And I see this little sign there. It says, litigation law firm is seeking a Hebrew translator.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, what are the odds that somebody's going to want a Hebrew in San Diego, right? So I called the number and they say, you can write and speak Hebrew. If you do, you have to come here like now. So I show up there. They had, I guess it was a litigation trust dispute between two siblings. One was in San Diego, one was in Tel Aviv. And so I spent the weekend there going through the documents, looking for the discovery, found what they were, and they were able to finish the case. And I said to the partner, "Listen, you guys sponsor for visas?" And he was like, "What does it mean?" And I said, "Well, I mean, I need a visa to be able to stay here. I'd love to work with you guys if it's possible." And he calls the office manager and says, "Get him the visa, get him whatever it takes. We'll hire him." So they hired me. Did the H-1B. I got the visa, and I was able to stay. And that's kind of how it started.
Wow, that's so crazy. And were you hired as an attorney? I mean, was the H-1B?
I was not an attorney. It was an H-1B as a law clerk.
Oh wow.
and then I took the bar during that year. I wasn't there for very long. I was there maybe for about a year. It was so fast, everything H-1B, and then they did my green card. I mean, I think everything took about a year and a half, maybe
Wow.
less actually. No, it was 14 months for even getting the green card. It was so fast back then. That was just before 9/11.
Hmm.
Um, and then I worked there for a little bit, and I decided to do freelance work for other attorneys for about a year after that. And then I started my own practice. It was the end of 2003.
And because at this point you were a green card holder, you weren't bound to work with this law
Right.
firm. You kind of had that
I had my
flexibility.
green card. I had my bar. I passed the bar, and then I decided to start my own little practice in 2003, which was
Wow.
just me. It was just me basically. 2000, yeah, in 2003.
So that's so crazy. It's also, it's one of those things where you are where you are now because of a random pamphlet you walked by at the
Right.
campus.
Can you
That's
imagine?
I mean, it's when you think about those small moments, that's so it's so fascinating. I want to kind of just a quick question because it's a little bit I reflect on my life too when I hear about people's own journeys. Did you know that did you ever have a thought that you wanted to be a lawyer maybe when you were a kid, growing up in Israel or something like that? Of course, everyone has to go to the military. For my friends and family out there who go through it, they usually take those first few years off and travel, but do not go to school. They just travel and party and have fun and really you were like, no, I'll travel, but I gotta go to school.
Well, what I did is I actually went for like a month or so, backpack through Europe
Mhm.
before I started law school because I was already in Europe and I did that. So that was my little trip, but I didn't do the India and they go to Thailand and all that.
Yeah.
It wasn't in my cards at that time. But I can tell you is that it was kind of like it all meant to happen in a way. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because I really felt like I needed to get out of Israel for a while, just to experience a different location and just live somewhere else. And that happened to be England, where I was in Manchester, which is I chose Manchester because I was really into the Smiths, the band, um,
Huh.
and they came from Manchester, so I was excited to live there, and it was an amazing experience. I met so many good friends, which I'm still friends to this day. My law school professor and many good friends that I made in the UK when I lived there.
Yeah. Wow. That's so cool. Did you ever think about doing anything other than law, or were you just,
Yeah, yeah.
like
So,
why?
so basically, my family, most of them come from the technical field, as you know. A lot of engineers, they go to technical school. Like so, I was destined to be a mechanical engineer or a computer engineer. But the thing is, I was so bad in math, really bad, and I hated. I hated. Even my high school, I went to a technical high school, which is focused on engineering, right? I just didn't, I really hated it. So for me, when I applied to go to study abroad, it was psychology or law. There was the two options available for me at the time as a foreign international student, right? And so I figured, maybe I'll just do law. It sounds cool. But there was no like, I never dreamed to be a lawyer or anything like that.
Hmm.
It just happened when I made a decision what major I'm going to take. It was either psychology or law.
Do you remember, because again I reflect on this for my life too. Do you remember, like, as a kid, okay, fine, you weren't great at math, I guess you weren't drawn to sort of the technical aspect. Were you drawn to, like, what were you drawn to? What were some of your maybe tendencies? What did you enjoy to do when you were younger?
Um, I like to sketch to this day. So I like to draw and I like art.
Mhm.
So maybe something in art, but that's not really something that was encouraged so much because like in a Jewish family, they want you to be a doctor or a lawyer or engineer or do something that makes money. That was something that you know it doesn't really. It's more passion stuff. But if I could, I would be an artist.
Hmm.
I mean, that was my dream, kind of like I like to paint. To this day, I collect a lot of art in my house. You got like this thing behind me right now. This was it's a Chinese artist, and he basically I bought it when I was in Hong Kong. I brought it back, and this is a guy that is he does stuff on the street, and he has like a small gallery over there, and it's like you have to wait like an hour to get in there to get some of his stuff. But so I have all kind of stuff in my house, different art that I collected over the years.
Yeah,
and if I could do it over again, I would be an artist.
Well, first of all, there's always time, but I will say, just for folks listening, it's kind of a painting with blue waves crashing behind. I was just I was curious because it's one of those things where I think not a lot, but at least some lawyers out there kind of fall into it for various reasons, and it's always interesting to think of what people's sort of natural tendencies were when they were younger, when there wasn't any major expectations. It was just, what do you love to do for fun?
Right.
So you finished school in Manchester. You moved to California. You had this amazing experience, and really, wow. I mean, to think about 1 year, you got an H-1B visa and a green card. Insane. It's insane to think about that right now. And you started your own practice.
Somebody put a comment that it's taken 14 months to get a receipt right now. Right?
Exactly, and that was 14 months from application to permanent residence. So that's kind of incredible. So actually, to your point, I want to give some folks. We've had a lot of nice comments here. So hey, Samir from Palo Alto. So there you go. You could have been neighbors with Samir if you ended up staying there.
All right.
We've got Branislav calling in from London. How's it going, Branislav? Shiv from Atlanta. How's it going, Shiv? And hi to you as well. Larissa commented that really fast, the H-1B and green card, 100%. I mean, it's crazy. And to your point here, Andrew Wilson said, can't get a receipt notice for 14 months. And then Nicola saying, tuning in for the first time from Germany, which is super cool. So thank you, Nicola. How are you?
Welcome.
So, at this point, you've broken out into your own law firm. You said it was around 2003.
It was, yeah.
Were you focusing on immigration already, or were you kind of still doing some of the work that you had been doing with that initial firm, kind of going?
So I left that firm 2002, I think. I was doing freelance work. I was only doing immigration. That's when I learned immigration. I was just doing some contract work, mostly H-1B work. There was a lot of H-1B work at that time. And I just set up I found a small office space in downtown San Diego, which essentially was, I would say, kind of like a half closet type of style, where there was no window, and so I knew an attorney who was renting there, and he's like, there's some space at the back. It's like $300 a month, and so that was my first. That's when I started. I started there, and remember that 2004 was a really good year. It was economy was good. The housing bubble was crazy. So it was, everybody were getting clients except for me. I was just started. So I think that I had to really make a decision fast if I'm going to make it as an attorney on my own, or I'm going to go and find a job, because I was getting job offers because, the firm that I was working for, even though it was just 1 year, it was fairly large firm. So, I made connections, so I could have easily found a job. I just had my son was just born. So I literally had a newborn, no money coming in, you know what I mean? And so it was a very interesting period of time, because you're sitting in that room, and I always remember sitting in that room, no windows, the phone is not ringing, and it's very hard to get motivated when you're in that position. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's very difficult. And I remember that I decided to not be in the office and be at a coffee shop half of the day, just so I don't get depressed, right? And I remember I told you the whole thing about synergy, that things happen for a reason in my life. And this is, again, I'm sitting in a coffee shop in Pacific Beach, which is kind of like a cool part of San Diego. And San Diego is, for those of you who don't know, all the big marketers in the world, they live in San Diego or pass through San Diego. And it's true. No matter where you go, any coffee shop, kind of like Palo Alto, you've got a startup. Every coffee shop, there's a startup. In San Diego, it's marketers. Huh. So I'm sitting in a coffee shop, and I hear this guy screaming on the phone, very loud, obnoxious. I'm going to update your blog and blog this and blog that. And I'm like, what is it? What the hell is he talking about? What is a blog? And I'm listening to the conversation. He was like all passionate. And then he finished the conversation, I walked to him and I said, I'm sorry, I overheard you talking about this blog thing. What is a blog? And he was like, come sit down here. And he was like showing me the thing on it was the laptop, and he showed me the whole what a blog was. So basically, he was he was one of the guys that was doing some work for Frank Kern, who is a famous marketer, and he was doing all his digital foundation for all his marketing. And so he showed me what it is, and he actually helped me build the first blog that I had, which is the Visa Lawyer blog, which still exists to this day. Mm-hmm. I think it was one of the first immigration lawyer blogs. And so I started, writing on this blog. I had no clients anyway, right? So I'm sitting there writing the blog. And then 2 months after I did this, I'm getting a phone call. And at that point, I'm still answering my own phone, right?
Right.
So the call and the person on the other side is it's Fox News, and they're like, we want to speak to Jacob. Maybe speak to Jacob. And I'm basically answering the phone. I'm Jacob. And the lady is like, well, we need you to be on the news segment tonight to speak about the new changes in the citizenship or whatever that was. And I'm like, I'm thinking in my head, maybe there's a mistake. There's another Jacob, or, how do they, and I said, how did you find me? And she's like, well, we're reading your blog. And that was kind of like the first moment where I started realizing the power of media, because I couldn't even afford to put a Yellow Page ad, honestly.
Right.
And so I started doing more of that strategic writing about different topics, and I was still connected with that guy who helped me. And he said, listen, you gotta write about, back in the day, titles, the headlines were capturing SEO. It's different today, but back then, headlines were key. So I started doing more headlines, H1B and N400 and whatever. And I'm getting more traffic, and I'm getting more people finding me. And then after this interview, I had 3 other news outlets reach out the same week.
Wow.
And I started to use that to position myself as somebody in the media, and then people start seeing me. So within 6 months, I started getting more people call me. And I decided that even though I couldn't afford it, I hired my first paralegal. Somebody that worked me in the other firm, I just brought her in. I said, you know what, I can't afford her, but I need to do this so I can do other stuff, so I can start working on building this momentum around the traction. Mm-hmm. So I started doing more of the strategic writing and becoming and I was writing for other publications. I actually had a column in one of the international papers where immigrants read, and I started writing to that, and so that really helped me push myself a little bit more the first year, starting to get consistent clients. But I did realize that I needed to be out there. I needed to become known, not just when I need clients, but always.
I want to stop for a moment there, because I think it's so important to think about how quickly you went from feeling like a nobody to hiring somebody and realizing that you all of a sudden were a media, you were somebody that could be in the media. And the reality is that you probably always had all the information in your head. It's more about just that self-perception of like, I'm sitting in this office, there's no, this depression feeling of like, I'm not getting anywhere. Now you have a son. What's powerful to me about this story is that, forget about the chance encounter. That, again, always, right? Like, you happen to be in this place where this guy was yelling about blogs, but this idea that the first few months you started doing this work, you were putting out content, and you weren't getting paid for it. It wasn't going immediately to some kind of a newspaper. You were just sharing information with people, right? And it only found out afterwards, when Fox News called you, that the whole time people were reading it. You didn't get anything. You didn't get any feedback, emails, but the whole time people were actually finding it. And I feel like a lot of people who create content, 2 or 3 months is a pretty fast, feedback loop. It could take longer in some cases, especially now. There's so much.
Think about it. We're talking about more than 17 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Now it's definitely very saturated.
But the idea to me is still that like you didn't give up, and I think a lot of people would give up before that 2 month mark, right? Before that Fox person called you, you would have been like, you know what, screw this. I'm not getting anywhere.
Right.
I'm writing content. I'm going to quit being a lawyer. And then by the time Fox News calls you, you haven't practiced anymore. You know what I mean? So I think it's so important to show in hindsight that when you're putting out good content, if it's truly good, if it's truly valuable, and if you're doing it right, there are some tactics, and we'll get to some of that stuff. People are reading, people are seeing it, and you are providing value that will come back in one way or another as value to you.
Absolutely. And, you know, and I think that, you know, one of the most important things that I realized in the beginning is that most people are charging for the info, right? Most of it in the beginning. And I realized that when I was giving away free consultations and free content, and I gave a lot of free content, it was like literally sample documents and stuff like that. People appreciated it. The clients that were receiving that information, I would email people like, hey, you know, I had a campaign for, because I was obsessed with getting H-1B visas. That's my first domain, which is to this day, it's H1B.biz. I was determined to get at least, you know, several corporate clients so I can maintain, and I was literally emailing people and say, hey, I'm an attorney here in California. Here's a package, how you should maintain compliance with your H-1B files.
Mm-hmm.
I will send the full everything, something that the attorneys charge, like Fragamon would charge thousands of dollars for that kind of stuff, right? And I would send it for free to all these HR people while I was doing the writing. So I did I didn't realize what I was doing back then, but there's a book by Jay Baer. It's called Utility. Have you heard of Jay Baer?
Mm-mm.
And I highly recommend this book, Utility with a U, right? And what that book does, it talks, and he actually wrote another book called Hug Your Haters, where he featured some of my work, and he kind of referenced me in that book. Cool. But in the first book, in Utility, he's talking about being of value without asking for anything. So basically, it's marketing so good that people will come in the back door to essentially to hire you, because it's like they're impressed with how useful you are, right? And I didn't realize that I was doing that, but that's kind of what I was doing without even realizing it. Yeah. And again, I didn't do it because I did it because I thought, you know, for me, it's like, what are they doing that I can do different? All these lawyers are doing this and this and this. I'm going to do so. And that's the reason why I started going on Facebook. So for me, I was one of the first attorneys to actually build traction on Facebook. Because I was like, you know, everybody's on Google, everybody's doing this and that. Now there are more attorneys who are blogging. What can I do? This is 2009, 2010. What can I do different now? I already, you know, I've done the blogging. It's working. It's fine. I mean, it's becoming saturated. What can I do next? And I started to explore Facebook. How can I use Facebook to make a dent in my practice? And I couldn't get it. I was just like posting and nothing happened. And I remember that Mari Smith, who is a very famous Facebook marketer, who is also in San Diego, I went to one of her seminars, and I realized that people don't care about the brand in Facebook. What they care back then is who is the person behind it, like who is the lawyer. And so I started posting more personal stuff, like what I do at home, the weekends, behind the scenes. Nobody was doing that back then. They were just posting like their law firm ads, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that one night I posted a picture of a slide. It's a slide from the biggest slide in the world, water slide. It's in Mexico. It's in Brazil. And I said, one caption: would you go down the slide, yes or no? Okay. If you remember back in 2010, the measurement for Facebook was how many people are talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Not just likes, it's likes and how many people are talking about it. That's the engagement, right? So I went to sleep. I get up in the morning. This little photo had like 5,000 likes and another 10,000 people talking about it.
Wow.
By the end of the week, it had more than 2 million. 2 million, right? Now, my Facebook page has started to explode. We're getting so many messages and the whole thing. Nobody knows what's going on. Some reporter somehow saw it, and he was tracking it, and he wrote an article. The article is called "Lawyer Beats Coca-Cola." You can Google it. It's still up there on the web. Lawyer beats Coca-Cola, and you can see the story of what happened. We had more engagement than Coca-Cola, the company, that week. Can you imagine? It's crazy. And then, of course, after that, my page went viral. I was getting so much traction. I think I was able to get Facebook Live access in beta when they were in beta.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing that. And the first lives that I was doing on Facebook, we were getting like 10, 15,000 people on a live. Can you imagine?
Because there's no one else out. I mean, there's
exactly. Nobody else had that. Nobody had access to live back then.
Right.
And I was like, oh my God, I couldn't even answer the comments.
Right.
You know, I felt like a rock star. We were getting postcards to the office. I was getting people, but it definitely helped a lot because, you know, we were getting a lot of leads, the way it should be, like the way social media works today, right? We're getting all these, you know, viral stuff. And
that's what I was going to ask, because, you know, it sounds, this is where a lot of skepticism, I think, comes in, or a lot of hesitation by lawyers, especially, you know, in our field, but maybe in general, to put time and effort into this. Okay, your post got 2 million views. You know, you got 150 comments. Great. Like, those metrics are really impressive, and you have this little dopamine hit, and you feel cool. But does that convert to business? So when your slide, you know, post went viral, okay, you were getting thousands of comments, but did any of them say, this is great, but hold on a second, you're an immigration lawyer, I actually need your help? Did that happen at all?
Yeah, so so what happened is that people started reaching out to the office because you know, my phone number was there, and, you know, back then there was no way to do the bot stuff, and so people literally were calling the office, and we were just like sinking in you know, in phone calls.
Mm-hmm.
Because people just like wanted to, because what happens is when the post goes viral, more people see it.
Right.
People that are actually interested in your content, like people that like my page, and more people like that, were also seeing that content. That was the idea behind the Facebook Lives in the beginning. They wanted more people to see. The more people use Facebook Live, the more people will see your content.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right now it's all kind of messed up on Facebook, and it's the same. You know, I mean, the way it used to be is definitely not there anymore, unfortunately. Now TikTok is the new. What used to happen on Facebook back then is happening now on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But for me, it's definitely been a big shift in the way people saw me. You know, it definitely gave us more reach. The office was growing. Obviously, we're getting more. It wasn't just Facebook. We were doing a lot of other things, but the combination of all these efforts put me in a space where people saw me everywhere. They saw me on Facebook, or they saw me on my blog. They saw me speak at events.
If I actually, I'm curious about that piece. I mean, you obviously, the blog led to this Fox News thing, and then more outlets, right? At the same time, you start to play on Facebook, and you kind of blow up there. Did that start to bring in more inbound, not business leads necessarily, but inquiries to feature you in an article or have you speak on a panel or things like that? Did that start happening in parallel with increased? Yeah.
Absolutely. So I started speaking more in professional events before other attorney associations, other, you know, corporate things that connected with immigration. It definitely put me in a different place, in a different scale because of the exposure. Absolutely. I had more interviews in the media. I was in, you know, CNN Money, KPBS, NPR, a lot of things that were because of that exposure.
Would you say, because I'm so fascinated by this whole thing, because I feel like it's kind of a snowball. Once it hits, everything starts coming at you. Do you feel that because of all of that, you accelerated your career and sort of your firm by exponentially versus if you just stood, you know, did the traditional thing? And
100%. I can tell you that if I stayed the course and did everything else that all the other attorneys did, like you know, put an ad here, or, you know, Yellow Pages are going to Yellow Pages, and then pay FindLaw and Thomson Reuters and Lawyers.com and Avo, put your ad on there. If I did only that, I definitely wouldn't be able to scale the firm like I wanted to, like what happened now and where I am today. It's just because you know, you can't get to that level unless you're able to be seen by so many people. You know what I mean?
yeah, absolutely. And plus, it's a less saturated place, so it's like, where is everyone congregating? Well, everyone's on Facebook. Are there lawyers on Facebook? Not that many. So if you're going to be one of them, especially, you know, an immigration lawyer, they'll see you.
Yeah.
When did you, you know, so I know that I'm assuming that your first big, before you got on really on Instagram, because I want to start talking about how you now, I guess, started to realize the power of social media platforms specifically.
Yeah.
Was the next step YouTube?
Yeah, so basically I did YouTube kind of very close after Facebook. So I started doing YouTube. I wasn't putting a lot of effort in the beginning, but I was doing videos just so it's, you know, those videos were also doing very well. Some of these videos, there's a video that I did maybe 6 years ago where essentially I just draw on the board. I explained the process of how to immigrate a spouse from overseas. That video has like maybe 20,000 views on it to this day. But I know for a fact we tracked it because we always ask the clients, where did they come from? That video alone at least generated at least 100,000, if not more, in dollars of cases that we retained because of the people that saw the video and called the office.
And how long did it take you to make that video?
Maybe 5 minutes. I'm literally drawing with my finger, you know.
Yeah.
It just tells you just never know. But the fact that I was on YouTube and I had to be on YouTube just because it was a search engine,
Right.
which it still is a search engine. So I definitely had to put some real estate there too. But I realized that I need to be on these platforms just to be able to continue to grow the exposure.
Mm-hmm.
You can't stop once you start, right?
Right. And then also you start to realize that when you're an early adopter on a new platform, you know, eventually it's going to saturate. But once you have the muscle of being first or one of the early ones, you just start searching for new platforms and you come out there and just try to do your thing. Sometimes it'll fail. Maybe a platform doesn't take, you know, if you were big on Vine, for example, right? I mean, that could have been cool, but it didn't go anywhere, but that's okay. I want to take a quick pause here because we've got a lot of comments coming in. A few of them I want to get to now, but this one from Samir, kind of an interesting one. What factored into your decision to start a firm rather than work for one? You know, it's kind of like, why go the entrepreneurial route rather than, you know, work for someone?
The little amount of time that I worked for a firm, Samir, I wasn't really happy. You know, I didn't like the way they were communicating with the clients. It was more of an internal feeling that I wanted to be able to do things on my own way. Mm-hmm. And so it was more a matter of choice. And I felt that I had the drive in me at that time to do it. Because I said to myself, if I'm not going to do it at that point, I'm not going to go and do it in 10 years. You know what I mean? Once you're comfortable enough that it's more difficult. You know, when I really, you know, had nothing to lose, that was the best opportunity to try. So for me, it was more of a personal challenge that I wanted to go that way.
Yeah, and it's also this like itch of I want to do things my way, and I want to not have somebody, you know, a million people that I have to ask for their feedback or their sign off. Nicolas, when we were talking about content, Nicolas said being yourself, being kind and willing to share is the best product you can offer nowadays. And it's rare. I mean, I believe in this 100%. Content marketing, you know, it's this thing of, like you said, people sell information. It's when you sell information, it's really easy to start just going on price. Everyone has the same information. Your H-1B is probably just as good as another person's H-1B. There are only so many ways you can put together an H-1B, right? And so inherently, the H-1B itself is not going to be the thing that you're selling. It's really more about giving people a reason to want to go to you personally. So you give away the information, you share a little bit about you so they feel comfortable and they want to work with you. And then the thing you are really selling is your time and your access that they have to you. At least that's the way I think about it.
Right. I agree. It's more about, it's also about customer service. You know, it's like, how do you know, what is the experience they have with you once they are actually retaining you, right? So it's also about that.
Yeah, I think Nicola followed up and saying, imagine telling your grandkids one day you made a career in immigration through social media. It seems like a fairy tale, but it's definitely true. I mean, yeah, I mean, absolutely. we have another question here from Samir that I think is just interesting. Is, you're talking about, even at this point, it was early on. You're doing Facebook. You're starting to do YouTube. You're writing blogs. I know you said you were hiring people so you could focus on these efforts. But how did you juggle doing this? And at least, I'm assuming you did at least some client work. How did you get all that stuff done?
So, obviously I was working a lot at that time. I carved the time to do the client work, during the day, wherever I needed it. And then I would, block some time to do all the postings and it was less videos, but the postings and the writing. So it was just, I was doing a little bit every day. That was I think for me, that was kind of the key. As long as I knew that I was doing a little bit every day, it was getting done. Mm-hmm. So write a part of the article today, finish it tomorrow. Start post on Facebook today, finish it tomorrow. But at least it's kind of like when you start, it never ends, right?
Right.
So, but if you don't think about it that way, and you know that if you do it, it's going to pay off eventually, then I think it's more of a mindset kind of way, Yeah. Because I do a lot of consulting with other attorneys and law firms through our Enchanting Lawyer company.
If you want to talk about that a little bit, just to share what that is.
Yeah. So I started a podcast, 2014. It was a pretty popular podcast. We had 100 and something episodes, called The Enchanting Lawyer. And the idea behind that podcast was that the idea is you don't have to be a mean attorney. You don't have to be like a hard ass, stuff like that. You can still be kind and polite and get people to do what you want them to do, and engage with you because you have a different mindset, right? And so I was interviewing all these entrepreneurs, not just attorneys, different people like John Asseroff, Michael Gerber. We had Lee Steinberg, all these cool people that came on the show. But at the same time, I was getting a lot of inquiries from attorneys that said, well, can you help me at least get started in marketing my firm in a different way, or at least thinking about doing that in a different way? So I started different coaching programs, and I was working with different law firms, different practice areas, which I do to this day. But I think the biggest takeaway from that is that it's once you start doing it, you have to keep at it for a little bit, at least a little bit every day, because so many people, they'll start doing videos, they'll do like 10, 15 videos, and then they won't do anything for like a month or 3 months, and then they start again. And the problem with that is that it's going to be less effective, because this is more of a, like I said, compound effect. People have to see you all the time. People say, oh, yeah, I see you everywhere. You're on Google, you're on Facebook, you're on Instagram, you're on TikTok. It's kind of a compound impact, right? So that, you do it often, you do it pretty much every week or whatever,
and consistently. Yeah,
consistency is the key, because once people see you everywhere and they know that you're there, they can trust you. They feel like, listen, this attorney always shows up. He always have a video every Wednesday. Like, we have videos on YouTube every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, right? Every single week, 3 videos. To produce 3 videos on YouTube, that's a lot of work, because we have to film them. Somebody has to cut the videos. You have to edit them. But we do that every single week, right? And some attorneys are not doing this every single week. So that is something that the clients do pay attention to. Say, listen, this guy is always there. He shows up consistently. That means he's going to be also trustworthy with my case, maybe, or whatever that, you know what I mean? So I think consistency is key if you want to be visible, because, at some point, you have the outreach of FindLaw and all these big marketing services for attorneys, and they say, oh, we'll help you with your social media. We'll help you with building your blog and all that. Just pay us and we'll do it. The problem with doing that is that they're doing the same thing for other people too, and you don't really stand out, right? So the only way to really make an impact is, no matter what you do, you don't even have to hire somebody expensive to do it, is do something and do it on a regular basis.
Right.
If you want to write a blog, make sure you write every week. If you want to do a video, make sure you do a video every week.
Right.
You know what I mean? You don't have to go crazy and do it on every single platform, but do it somewhere and do it every week.
And I will say this, because I will say this, immigration lawyers, let's just stay with our niche here,
Yeah.
do the same, like compete with one another, right? There's no question. And it's not like, okay, you were one of the earlier on all these platforms, but you can still be successful on these platforms. You just have to find a new way to stand out. In a sense, I think, and maybe I'm making an assumption here, but it may be that it was a little bit easier for you to stand out because you were just the only immigration lawyer, period, right? You didn't have to explain what kind of immigration lawyer you were, et cetera. Now there are a lot more immigration lawyers on YouTube. I love LinkedIn. A lot of immigration lawyers on LinkedIn, but at the same time, there are 650 or 750 million plus users on LinkedIn. So you're not going to be, you're not only going to be successful by being the one and the first. I think success at this point, even in a slightly more saturated space, is about knowing what your uniqueness is. It's no longer just being an immigration lawyer. It might be an immigration lawyer from a certain country that speaks a certain language, that focuses on a particular subset of clients, et cetera. Because I think I don't want people to listen and say, well, Jacob was already there on Facebook. Well, Jacob was already there on YouTube. That means I'm not going to find success on those platforms. I don't think that's true. I think it's just now there has to be a more thoughtful and refined approach to it.
Yeah, I mean, you can always find a different angle to deliver the same message. You know what I mean? And some people may not like me, but they're gonna like somebody else. It's a question of personality as well. Or I think the opportunities are endless. Honestly, I mean, from doing videos or podcasts or just different kind of stuff that you can do, but you have to do something and do it on a regular basis so that people, because once you're not top of mind, it's very difficult to pay for it.
Yep.
Yes, you can pay for ads, but the key is to stay top of mind. So, oh my God, I saw you here. Oh my God, I saw your video here. I saw you. I mean, how many times I get people call me even today and say, oh my God, you're the guy from the videos. I can't believe I'm talking to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's really what social proof is about. The only way you can stand out from your competition is by having maybe a stronger social proof.
Yep.
Right?
So I want to talk about, at this point in your kind of, to go back to a little bit to your kind of story and journey. There are a lot of questions. I want to get to some of them at least. YouTube, Facebook, now Instagram is blowing up. And I think, and forgive me if I'm wrong about this, but I think Instagram and then now TikTok are your biggest platforms by far. I mean, if folks listening are impressed already, I feel like the next chapter, at least from a social proof standpoint, is really kind of where you took off even more. Can you talk?
I can tell you, Roman, that while this is true, I still think that YouTube, I'm getting some of my best leads on YouTube. And the reason is because the videos, they stay forever. And people may find a video that I've done 3 months ago, and they say, you know what, I found your video. I like what you say, and I want to work with you. So YouTube is definitely a strong platform as well. But it's less of a social media style platform. It's more of an information delivery. Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok are more of a community.
Right.
And the power of community is really where I think a lot of attorneys don't get it. And I give you an example. What happened is that when the pandemic started, April, everybody was freaking out. We were freaking out too in our firm, like many others, right? The phones were not ringing in March. April was like a dead month, and I realized that, I'm looking at the comments on our post, right? So nobody's really calling, nobody's hiring us, but the comments are similar. My attorney doesn't call me back. I can't get a hold of my attorney. I don't know what to do when the UCIS is going to open. I'm desperate. Nobody's answering my phone calls. These are the comments that I've seen over and over again. I'm telling you. And then I get up in the middle of the night. It was on a Thursday, and I'm like, oh my God, why haven't I done this before? And I've opened a private Facebook group, and we called it Immigration U Answers and Questions and Answers, right? And I started promoting the Immigration U group on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram. And the first week, we're getting 1,000 members. The second week, another 500. and people are asking questions, and I'm doing the lives in there. Hey guys, here's your immigration update. UCIS is closed again. We thought they're gonna, you remember they extended it was April, then June, right?
Yep.
I'm like, here's what you can do. And people are like, oh my God, my attorney is, I have no idea where my attorney is, but and so this community is now, we have about 10,000 members there.
Wow.
It's a free Facebook group. But that Facebook group essentially saved our practice, because I started getting consultations from these people. Hey, what can I do in my case? We charge for the consultations, and then we start converting them to green cards, expedited, lawsuits. That really is essentially the power of community and being empathetic and understanding for your clients. Empathy, right? That's what is lacking in 2021 and 2020. So if they see you there, sitting there in my hoodie and my t-shirt, and I'm telling them, looking at the screen, I say, listen, it's going to be okay. We're going to do this and this. Immigration is going to reopen. You'll be fine. It's taking 15 months to get a receipt, but here's what you can do. Every single week on live, and then consultations with the clients. All the consultations that I do it with video. I want to look them in the eyes. Every time I do a consultation, I look them in the eyes and I speak with them, and then we work. Do you know what I mean? The idea is that right now it's not about marketing and putting a billboard and a Facebook ad. It's about, does this attorney care about me or not? That's it. I don't care if he won 1,000 cases. I want to know if he cares about me, to call me. And that's why the way we run the law firm right now, we have a whole team of case managers that all they do is follow up with clients through text and email and call them and find out, to make sure that there's always somebody being touched every week, right? That's the key, I think, to make it work right now. And that's the biggest difference, So you can have all these social platforms, but if you don't care about them, they're not going to come.
So I mean, it's so true, and it's not even just about collecting hundreds or thousands or more users or followers. It's about the content you put out and how you make them feel, like you said.
Definitely, yeah.
I'm curious, because I think people will want to know, at least to some extent, how did you end up growing your following on some of these platforms? And again, I say this understanding that it's not about the numbers, it's about the quality of the community that you build. But the numbers matter to some extent, because the more people follow you, the more likely you can build a strong community.
And so basically what happened with Instagram, I was, again, Instagram was hard for me to build as well. But what I realized on Instagram, nobody cares about my law firm. Nobody cares about me. What they care is how my pictures make them feel.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so I started posting pictures from my I was traveling a lot. And I was, at that point, my girlfriend was a travel blogger, right? And we traveled the world together. So we used to go to many countries for her job. Mm-hmm. And so essentially I kind of learned how to do it through her, because she had a big following too. And then I started posting my pictures as I travel with different, landscape and filters and all that. But my captions were meaningful. So yes, there was a picture of me standing on, I went to an immigration conference in Colombia, in Bogota. I was speaking at an event, EB5 conference. Mm-hmm. And so after the conference, I went touring the city and I took some photos sitting in the old city and all that. And so I posted it on my Instagram, where I'm sitting there with a nice, and then nice caption. And the caption was like, the world is small and, we can do business anywhere. So the captions have some connection to immigration or to travel, but the photos are just pretty. Right. Like different sceneries, and we have landscape. I have a lot of landscape for my travels. I went to Hong Kong, the Maldives, went to Cuba, many countries. Mm-hmm. Traveled together, and I was posting the photos, and I realized that was really the reason why people just enjoyed the travel photos and the captions around it, and that kind of that was my niche, the traveling lawyer in a way. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I also got verified. So they verified the blue check. Yeah. Which helped me a lot. I was verified in April of 2018.
What was that? What is that process? I mean, did they reach out to you? Do you ask? How does that even work?
Reach out. I mean, I had no idea what happened. I woke up. It was Easter 2018, and I had the blue check.
Wow.
I can tell you that media press helps, and I had a lot of media that year. Yeah. I was in Forbes. I was in all kind of stuff, and so I guess that helps. And the same thing happened in TikTok. I was verified very fast.
Hmm.
Probably within a couple of months on the platform, I was already verified. So that definitely helps, gives credibility when you reach out to people and they see that you have the blue check. And also on Facebook, we got verified early on. Obviously, that was my first platform. So
Hmm.
Facebook helped me get verified on Instagram. I can tell you that for sure.
Yeah.
Because I had press and I was verified on Facebook, and so they already gave me Instagram too. And then TikTok, oh, he's Facebook and Instagram. Well, let's verify him. He's probably somebody that we should verify too, right? It's
Yeah.
kind of all social proof.
Yeah. Wow. That's fascinating. And obviously, I mean, TikTok's a little bit different, but just to ask you for 1 minute, like of an overview of what are some of your thoughts on growth on TikTok? Because it's obviously not the same beautiful. I watch a lot of your videos. You kind of combine the fun dancing and singing kind of vibe within TikTok with providing informative immigration content.
So on TikTok, what I do is I became part of their creator program, which was helpful. It gave me some tips on how to do it. But what I tell attorneys that I help to go on TikTok is basically you have to find what is going to be your niche. Kind of like if you're an immigration attorney, focus on what do you want to be? Do you want to be an information person? Like I put some information about the news. I do a little bit of fun stuff, like I take a sound and I make it fun. Like yesterday, I've done a video where there's like a fun sound, and I talk about that it's taking forever to get an RFE response, something like that. You know what I mean? So I use the trends, but I think again, TikTok is consistency too. I post a video every single day, every single day, at least one. I used to post like 6, 7 a day, but now I do one.
Yeah.
And 1 or 2. So TikTok is really important because TikTok, you can just go viral out of the blue, and nobody knows how. But when it does happen, it's pretty good because then you start getting these people contact you.
Yeah. And I guess that would be my question. Have you gotten leads from TikTok yet?
Absolutely. We got so many leads from TikTok that we had to set up a special text number. So I have a special text number. If you can see, I mean, I can't show it on the screen, but I can show you, for example, here. So we have a special text number. You can see here, these are all text numbers that are coming from TikTok.
Yeah.
About 5,600 unread messages.
Wow.
5,000. That's all TikTok.
And how many of these people are kind of, you think, legitimate prospects?
Many of them are. They want at least all of them who want to talk to us have to pay for consultation. We have a special rate. It's cheap. It's like $100, less than $100 for a short consultation, just to understand what they need and answer one question. And from there we qualify them, and then they can become a client or whatever. But we don't do any non-paid consultation. So they're all paid consultations from TikTok.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible.
For attorneys, it's very easy to convert. We just have our TikTok number. We have a link to book the consultation, and that's what they do.
Yeah. Wow. So
yeah, TikTok is important for attorneys.
And I want to say that for anybody watching or listening, especially skeptics around TikTok, it works. There are people on the platform. It's not just teenagers dancing. There are a lot of that, but there are a lot of different people who need all sorts of services, all sorts of support, whether legal, immigration, etc. I want to take a quick. I know we're kind of coming up here on an hour, and again, Jacob, really appreciate your time. I wanted to ask you. I want to go back to a couple of questions here about social media platforms. So Josh Shacknow, immigration attorney in Canada.
Yeah, I met him yesterday, and we were in another webinar.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So Josh said, curious to hear what you both think social media is heading in the next 2 to 3 years. There's another question along this line here about Clubhouse. So Diani Winter-Funde, who is also an immigration lawyer based in Tampa, asks, any thoughts about the new Clubhouse app? What are your suggestions for us social media attorneys now? Practically every lawyer is on social media. So I think those two questions, I think Clubhouse is part of this sort of future, but where do you think social media is going, particularly for immigration lawyers?
So I do think that social media is going towards communities more. I do believe so. And Clubhouse is a community, if you think about it. So Clubhouse is a community where people come together and they have conversations. So it's going to be a lot about communities, private or public, whether in groups. And I think that's one part. Definitely audio is growing. Clubhouse is an example of that. So I think audio is going to definitely, there's going to be a lot of push. There are many apps like Clubhouse. Clubhouse is definitely taking over. And it's just the way they are marketing it. But I have hosted a few rooms there, and anybody who's watching here, if you want to host a room with me, I'm happy to. My handle is @immigration law. It's simple.
Nice.
I think it's definitely going to be more conversations like audio, and I think it's about communities, like different technology around communities, how people gather together, have conversations, and being able to come together for conversations like that around audio or video. But I definitely think it's going to be going forward around that kind of stuff.
And I think this is a kind of a similar question, but it's from a law student here. So Umberto Okoa. Sorry, Umberto, I'm probably not saying your name, but thanks for your comment. And Umberto asks, any advice for entrepreneurial law students who would like to do something similar to what you did, Mr. Sapochnik?
Yeah. So I think, again, if you're in law school right now, I definitely think everybody should have at least a TikTok account and start. So I have a lot of people on TikTok, a lot of friends that I met on TikTok that are law students, and they post as law students. So they're building a following already. One guy, his name is Rosenblum. I think David or Gary. He's a law student, and he has so many followers. And he doesn't talk about the law. He talks about practical advice, like different kind of facts. But he's building a following. So once he becomes an attorney, guess what? He's going to say, hey, guys, I'm an attorney right now. I do family law. I do immigration. He already has a platform, right? So I think if you're a law student, you should figure out what's going to be a platform. You want to do start a podcast, talk about, hardship in law school or whatever is interests you, like podcasts about, anything. But build a platform, have some sort of a following. So when you actually get into business, you can take that following and convert it into something more of a tangible asset.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. I mean, and if I can chime in on that, I've spoken to a bunch of law students. I've been on some panels as well with law students. A lot of it is just they feel that they're not ready. They don't have enough information. They feel uncomfortable speaking about the law. But to your point, the idea here is that no one's expecting you to be an expert. You are still a student. It's okay. But right. You still kind of, to use this sort of overused term, you can still speak your truth. You can speak the things you do know about. You're not an expert in immigration law, but you're certainly an expert in immigration law 102, your 2L seminar, right? Whatever that class is. You're an expert in studying for a final or a midterm in immigration law. You're an expert in the thing you're living, and it's okay to share about that, even if you're not yet, a fully practicing attorney. So I think I've seen a lot of this comes from this like feeling of not being ready or confident enough. And I think to me that mindset should switch to you're pretending that you're not here to pretend that you're ahead of where you are now. Just be confident as to where you are today, share that journey. By the time you get to being a lawyer, you're going to be way ahead of everyone else who isn't doing this kind of thing.
100%. So whatever that is, a YouTube channel, a podcast, build an audience while you're in law school, and then figure out what to do with it. Once you have an audience, you become more marketable. Imagine you come to a law firm and say, hey, I've got 20,000 followers on so-and-so, and I'm bringing that audience with me to work with you guys. You know what I mean?
I think about that all the time. Now I'm on LinkedIn a lot now, and I just think about, man, if I was posting and creating content back then when I was graduating, life would have been so crazy to graduate and bring 100,000 or 50,000 whatever followers with you. So Jacob, I kind of wanted to end on one sort of question here, or like one high level question for you, is that for folks who are listening, and we've talked a lot about different platforms, and you started with blogs, and you saw the power of that. You moved on to doing video on Facebook and YouTube. You've like morphed your content based on the platform you're on, but it's always delivering the same message in a sense, and it's always building up your personal your brand, and ultimately you funnel them back one way or another into your law firm. I was curious to know about sort of what are your sort of big high level thought of what should immigration lawyers start with? Let's say they're not doing anything right now and they know that there's value here. What's that one thing you think that they should start with?
So I think that writing a blog right now is going to be definitely more difficult to make a dent. So I think if I had to start right now, if I had to start from zero, I would definitely focus on video, right? So I would do different kind of videos. I would do a mini series, short bite videos that I can post on stories, right? Different stories like LinkedIn, and stories is a new platform, in all these mediums that you can start getting some traction. Little videos. I would do. I would do an outreach. So, for example, we use a tool called Dub for the video tool.
Mm-hmm.
So I would send, and I do it now. I'd send video messages, video emails to clients or prospective clients. They say, "Hey, thanks for meeting me yesterday. I'd love to do this and this." So essentially, I'll send an email with a video. So if I was a new practitioner, I would sit right now in my dark little office, right, with no windows, and I would send video messages to everybody that I want to connect with. Whether it's if I want to be a corporate immigration attorney, I would send those video messages to HR companies, HR professionals. If I am a family, do marriage cases, I would reach out to different associations and say, "Hey, my name is Jacob. I would like to speak on Zoom before your group. Divorced immigrants, talk about VAWA." That's what I do. I would send those email videos every single day, 20 or 40 of them a day. Do you know what I mean? So video creation, whether it's video on YouTube or outreach, is definitely the only way that you can stand out right now. Right? So that's what I would do. I would start with video and start, slicing it up on different platforms and get information out there.
It's funny. I remember the first time you and I chatted, you sent me a video email, and I think I responded, and I responded in text.
Yeah.
And it's because I didn't have the platform Dub. I probably could have figured it out, but my instinct, and I'm happy to be on video. I'm not nervous about it, but when it came in email form, it was so memorable, and I still went back to my old ways of doing it. And it's funny because it totally sticks out. And that, I think, if I can
send you a video message, I remember that.
Yeah. And I think, to me, the biggest thing was that it sticks out. It sticks in my mind. And from my perspective, from this whole conversation, the biggest takeaway is all of these things are ways for you to be memorable. And it's not that you're providing the most unique or brilliant or, Nobel Prize winning information. It's more so that you're putting yourself out there in a way that people will remember you and will remember what you do. And that's how you grow the business. I love that. And thanks for showing that. And I hope that folks are inspired to think about how they can market and brand themselves, and sort of just start somewhere, start doing videos just to a friend or one person. It doesn't have to be out on social media. And then, of course, once folks feel comfortable, you can go out more broadly. I want to end with a fun question, because I know right now, we're all still cramped, and you were traveling a lot before.
The other thing I have to say, the other thing I would do is do the videos, and I would set up either a WhatsApp group, right, or a Facebook group, one or the other, or a Telegram group, and start pushing people in there. So imagine you are just starting out, set up a WhatsApp group and say, "Hey, this is a group where I'll give you every day some tips. You can do like one for IT, one for this." Those are the best, because you can have thousands of people in there, and it's your group, right? So that's another tip I would do.
Yeah, and that builds on the idea of community. You build your own community, right?
Good.
So you build your own community, and then you utilize video to easily communicate.
Like WhatsApp groups, Telegram groups, the Facebook group. I have so many groups that we built.
Yeah.
Our groups, right? So between all these groups, there are like 30,000 people.
Wow. Yeah. That's powerful. Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. So I was my one kind of final question to you is, and this is, at this point, it's probably an overused question, but especially you as someone who traveled a lot, where's the first thing that you think you're going to travel when the world opens back up?
Well, I'm going to Tulum in 2 weeks. So,
okay. All right.
We're going to Tulum, our first big trip. real vacation, like the beaches and all that. So Tulum is the first one, Mexico.
Yeah, because it's possible, and you're so close to there. You're as in San Diego.
4-hour flight, but still, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's my first, and it's gonna be on Instagram. You'll see it there.
Yeah. Oh man, a sneak peek into what life is going to be like eventually when we can all travel again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Jacob, thank you so much. This was so. I mean, we can definitely talk for another 2 hours, but maybe we'll have a part 2.
We'll do. How about this? We can do a clubhouse together, and get everybody who's on here to listen. We can talk there for hours.
Yeah, likewise. I really want to do that. And so folks listening, download Clubhouse, try to get in. I think there might be a wait list now, but I'm not sure if they're opening it up again.
Yeah, we have a few invites. So if anybody watching live, we can give them a couple of invites.
Yeah, that's true. That's right. I've got 4 invites too, so hit me up. So yeah, we'll work on some upcoming content. But in the meantime, happy Friday. Jacob, thank you so much. This was just so insightful, and I think people are already inspired. I know that I'm inspired to do more than I'm doing now, and to continue to grow utilizing these platforms.
If anybody wants to reach out to me, just send me an email to jacob@enchantinglawyer.com. Check out our blog, and happy to answer any questions.
And do you suggest people follow you on Instagram or TikTok or any of those or all of those platforms?
Absolutely. Just put my name in there. You can find me on Instagram at San Diego Immigration Lawyer, TikTok at SD Immigration Lawyer, and then on Facebook is My Immigration Lawyer / My Immigration Lawyer, our page.
Oh wow, nice. And then of course, I'm sure they can search for your name too, and it'll come up.
Yeah, you'll find me.
Awesome, perfect. All right, well, all right, folks, you heard it. You heard it first here. Anyway, thank you, Jacob. Have an awesome weekend, and really appreciate your time and everything you've shared.
Of course.
Man, so much information, so much good stuff there. I really thank you all so much for joining, for your questions, for your comments. There were a couple of questions I didn't get to pull up, but I think our discussion answered them. So I appreciate all you all spending your Friday morning, evening, or afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. And we'll be back next week with another great conversation. But as always, peace out and stay safe.